A gentleman is not a gentleman. It's a word that has been bastardized over the years, now in modern times almost conflated with the word simp, meaning to be mild-mannered or polite all the time or gentle all the time or avoiding conflict at any cost. But as a rule, until the 19th century, the traditional English gentleman was highborn, from the word gentle, meaning to raise to high position or to ennoble. The Oxford Dictionary describes gentleman in one of two ways. Either you are born of nobility, or if you demonstrate, regardless of your rank, chivalrous conduct, consideration for others, and high character. Simps do not have high character. And who better than to demonstrate these three fantastic qualities than our Chevalier de Bayard during the Battle of the Spurs? Here it is. During the Battle of the Spurs, France is at war with Henry VIII from England and Maximilian I from the Holy Roman Empire. And Bayard gets ambushed out of nowhere. He's forced to make a retreat. And after a 3-mile chase, they finally make it to a bridge, and they're trapped again. And Bayard is mounted on his horse, watching as all of his soldiers are forced to surrender to the English armies. But out in the distance, Bayard notices an unarmed officer that thinks the battle is over since they're all surrendering, and decides to take a break sitting down on a wooden log. And he takes his helmet off. Now Bayard notices this, and he rushes past all of them, and sneaks up right behind the unarmed officer, points his sword at his throat, and tells him, "Yield or die." The unarmed officer is shocked, and he says, "Well, since you've taken me, I'm supposed I must surrender, but who the hell are you?" And Chevalier de Bayard says, "I am Captain Bayard, and it is I who surrender to you. Here is my sword. Be pleased to take me with you, but do me this kindness and let me have it back should we encounter any English forces who may offer at my life." The unarmed officer is delighted that his life just got spared, and he gets to bring the Chevalier de Bayard to the English military camp as his captive, or so he thinks. Bayard has now been held at the military camp for about 4 to 5 days, and the English officer has treated him with the utmost respect and kept all of his promises. All of a sudden, Bayard tells him, "My good sir, I'd be right glad if you gave me a safe conduct over to my own people, because I'm getting really bored here." The English officer says to him, "What do you mean? We haven't even figured out your ransom yet." Bayard is livid. "My ransom? Your ransom, you mean? You are my prisoner. You surrendered to me. And then after you gave me your word, that's when I yielded. It was to save myself from the others, not from you. You were at my mercy." On top of all this, he adds words of threat if he doesn't keep his word. The English officer is completely stunned. He's never met anybody who carries himself with this type of chivalric code, and he also doesn't want to go 1v1 because he knows that Bayard is a master of fencing. So he decides to honor the nature of the proceedings. His proceedings, mind you, he is a prisoner in their camp. The English officer decides to take this very special case to the higher ranks, and because of the difficulties of these proceedings, it reaches the ears of all of the English soldiers in the military camp. The next day, Maximilian I arrives at the camp to see Bayard, and he's like, "My friend, it's a great pleasure to see you." Now, the reason he does this is because Maximilian I and Bayard actually fought together not too long ago, 3 or 4 years back during the siege of Padua. But Maximilian I had to switch sides during to political conflict, so he is now on the other side. But even though they were technically enemies, they still fought together during the siege of Padua, and Maximilian I had the utmost respect for Bayard. After some playful banter between the two of them, guess who arrives at the tent? Young Henry VIII. Before the wife killings, before he falls off horse and becomes a madman, he still has a soft spot for the graces and pomps of knighthood. Henry VIII tells Bayard, "I think it's better that you remain our prisoner here." Bayard says, "I'm sorry, sir, but I do not allow that, and I'll be more than happy to explain my case to you." So now all three of them are sitting down, and they're explaining and going through all of the details of what happened with that English officer. Maximilian I was the first to break silence, and he tells Henry VIII that in this instance, Bayard was not the captive, but the captor, because he spared the life of the English gentleman, and the English gentleman also gave him his word that he was going to give him a safe passage to the military camp. Regarding all these things, taking them into consideration, Henry VIII decides that he's going to grant him his freedom, but he has to wait about 6 weeks before he can do so. Bayard agrees, and Maximilian agrees, and everything is perfectly settled. Bayard thanks both of them for their justice. At this point, Henry VIII is completely in awe with his character and makes multiple attempts very, very anxiously to try to win him over so he can come over and fight for his side. But Bayard replies with a famous patriotic statement, which is, "I only have but two masters. One is up in the sky, our God and Savior, and one is down on earth, the King of France." An emperor and a king went from considering Bayard a prisoner to now yielding to his chivalric code and actually begging him to join his side. Because a true gentleman is comfortable with conflict. It's a choice, something very hard to do if you're a simp. For those of you that want to save the date and save the bottle, on April 30th, I will be doing a live event in the Church of Saint Andre in Grenoble, France, where the Chevalier de Bayard is currently buried, and I will be having this bottle in his honor. So don't forget to save the date and save the bottle.